Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. My name is James RINK, and today I will be introducing you and interviewing Penny Bradley. So, for those of you who don't know, on this show we discuss about the secret space program, super soldiers, which I am, and I think Penny probably was trained in that trajectory at some point. And sometimes we go into some of the alien stuff, but I prefer to just keep it SSP, which stands for Secret Space Program. So, all right. So Penny was kidnapped at the age of 4 and taken to Langley Air Force Base in 1959 by the men in green fatigues. After 5 years of mind fracture and altered training, she was sent to Ares Prima on Mars through the Long Island Jump Gate and was turned over to the Germans. I guess that was was it? Oh gosh, Mars. Oh my God. I was thinking the name of the academy, the Mars Academy. Okay, and was turned over to Germans. At the age of 9, the Germans put her in Schule for a decade. When she graduated, she was a pilot in the German Mars militia called Marisch Hemschild, Martian Home Shield, until 1990. She panicked during a mission. I think there was a spider there that killed your partner, and
Raptors.
Okay, and it seems like they knew that was going to happen, and like they set it all up, I guess.
Yeah, it felt that way.
Okay, and when she graduated, oh wait, I said that. Okay, she panicked during a mission and was sent off to Mars to the German space military called the Nachtwaffen, which stands for night weapons, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we call it Dark Fleet just because the Americans called it Dark Fleet to make it sound more scary than it actually was, because their ships were really dark looking and big and massive. Yeah, Dark Fleet has been around for at least 5,000 years, perhaps longer. So when the Germans made a joint venture with them, their interests were mutually aligned. So it all was a deal worked in heaven, I guess, for them. She was a navigator on a freighter service. Was that the Merchant Marine Fleet?
It was a lower level of Nachtwaffen instead of. It was military, but it was basically like Merchant Marine. They would send out groups of ships to support specific missions that the Draco had set up. Oh. And there would be a flagship and troop transports and supply ships.
Interesting.
So I was just the navigator for one of them. It wasn't an important job.
Okay. And how do you have any idea how big the vessel was that you were stationed on? And
it was 1 kilometer long, and we didn't have a lot of crew because we had a lot of space to hold what we were carrying. Okay. Sometimes it was soldiers, sometimes it was slaves, sometimes prisoners of war, sometimes it was supplies. If it was between humans and then supplies, there would have to be retrofitting done in between. But yeah, I was in trouble, and I was basically a prisoner in my quarters and workstation. I wasn't given the run of the ship, so I don't know everything that was there.
Interesting. So did you have to work directly with this Draco?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell people why there was a Draco Nachtwaffen vessels?
Because when the Germans went out into space, they found out that every square centimeter of space was already owned by somebody else. And there are 2 ways to get bases, colonies. One is to lease the land from somebody else, which is what they did with the Draco. The other is to go to war and take it from them, which is what they did to the Raptors and Mansids on Mars. So,
Interesting. Well, in all intents and purposes, Mars used to have a blonde hair, blue-eyed humanoid before all the. So what happened? There was the Orion Wars, and there were a lot of refugees, the mantis and certain reptilians, and they all settled there. And of course, there was problems between the species, and a war took place. But whatever, it's all history now. So,
my understanding was that Mars and the planet that's now the asteroid belt,
Maldek or Tiamat.
Different people call it one or the other, but that these two planets were in a dispute over who was going to be the boss of the solar system. And there was a war, and that planet was destroyed. The atmosphere was taken from Mars, and basically everybody who was somebody died. And all we've got left are the survivors.
Interesting.
And a big chunk of that planet that was destroyed collided with what was in Earth's orbit. And recently, the geologists found that Earth does indeed have two cores. So this story of the top half of that planet hitting what was already here turned out to be true.
You mean when they killed off the dinosaurs?
Oh, it was way before that.
Oh, okay.
But it was a story that was told in our mythology and was in detail in the Sumerian tablets. So to me, it was interesting that the ancient story that came from extraterrestrials turned out to be the truth and verifiable.
Okay. It's interesting because I did a show with Peter the Insider about Mars and some of the early history. And what he was stating was that the Germans either were time traveling, or it almost seems like they had access to portal technology as early as the 1850s, and were some of what I guess they call themselves Prussians at that point.
Yeah.
Where it would be typically the rich and elite would have access to this technology, and they were settling. And I think it was, but what's kind of confusing is I really don't understand what Peter was describing. It was that Mars was tropical and it had banana trees and the climate was beautiful. But the Germans, when they settled Mars, they were cyborgs from our future, I think maybe 2040 to 2400. Okay, so from that future, they came back in time to the year 1600 and settled Mars. So when they got there, there was already advanced civilization there. And these Germans were interested in the territory and not sharing. So Peter described that there was a cobalt bomb that took place the year 1900. So when the Germans got access to the saucer tech, they started settling Mars in the 1940s, and the environment was still absolutely a mess. And there's actually portals ripped through space and time. So I don't know. Does any of this resonate with you, Penny?
I wasn't told any of that.
Okay.
What I was told was that the Germanic peoples were basically what we would, looking through history, it would be the Holy Roman Empire until Napoleon destroyed it. And approximately 50 years later, the Prussians started trying to rebuild it. And that everybody in Europe went absolutely batshit because they did not want the Holy Roman Empire rebuilt. And so that was what led to both World War I and World War II. And that by that middle zone during the Weimar Republic, that the German aristocracy figured out that there was no future for the German people on Earth. And yes, by that time they had portal tech. By that time they had ships that operated. by that time they'd already gone to the moon. And
what
one,
year? What year is like the 1920s you're talking about? The
yeah,
1910s?
1920s, they were already on the moon. And by the
Wow, that
40s,
early.
yeah. And they had figured out that warp drive was time travel. So they started going back farther and farther and farther in time and making the arrangements to actually have colonies. And so then they started traveling back in time in their own history to get their own peoples. And these would be, at the time, they were Germanic speaking peoples. So it would be anything from Northern Europe. And they would go in and they would get a collection of people and have them on the ship together. And they would, if they could get along, they would put them in the same colony together. If they couldn't, they would separate them into two, because they usually went to battle scenes. The biggest problem that they had was getting women, because women were not usually in the battles. They were very careful to only take people that died here. And then they would put them through regen, because if they took people that were alive, they didn't know if that would mess with the timeline or not. And they were trying to preserve the timeline.
But they could just take the person and put a clone in its place, and the clone quickly
They
died.
didn't bother with that. They didn't, honestly.
So let's discuss the body. Okay, so the body's dead. They went through the funeral service. It's in the grave, and knocked off and just teleports it out of the grave, reanimates
No,
it.
they went into battle. They went into the battlefield. They sent women, soldiers, dressed as Valkyries. They were matching the mythology. The mythology was that the Valkyrie would go into the battle and take the heads of the bravest, and then take them to Valhalla, hold the head up, and the body would form underneath it. Which is a really good description of what happens in the regen tanks.
Because there's the story of Perseus killing Medusa. So maybe, of course, it's my belief that I was that character that played that character, and he was a general in Atlantis, and Medusa was a tyrant queen, and so she had all her hands in every affairs of state. So we took care of her. But so they would so they could regenerate the body. That's all they really needed, was just the head. Everything else.
Yeah, all they really needed was the head. And I have memories of what I call Altar 32 being one of those Valkyries. And I had a bag on my belt that I would just pop the heads into the bag. And when it was all I could carry, I'd go back to the shuttlecraft that had a Pegasus painted on the side of it, which is what they remembered as the Valkyries would ride a flying horse. And yeah, there was a flying horse painted on the outside of the shuttle. Well, and so you would bring
Pegasus,
back.
Yeah, Project Pegasus is associated with time travel. So so that vessel had time travel capability, like all of them do.
All of them have. So we would go back to our mothership, which was named Valhalla, and the captain was referred to as Odin, so that everything matched the myth. And we were matching the myth because we didn't want to change history. And if you really think about it, we were the myth.
So Valhalla is basically being out there and all that advanced technology.
Yes. And what they needed was people who could live without modern technological advances, people who could be put into an area and create the bottom line infrastructure. And so they would go through, they would make the first colony, they would develop the water resources, they would build the houses, and their descendants became the real leaders, because as soon as they were out there and their colony was founded, their children were being instructed in modern ways.
So they would regen people, go back in time, maybe 5,000, 10,000 years into the past,
Mm-hmm.
deliver these people with maybe some primitive tools and tell them to rebuild a civilization.
Yeah. And they would leave somebody there that had technological abilities to make sure that everything was compatible with the next layer of technology. And they would slowly build it up. So each colony is a little bit different, because some of them were from Britain and some were from Scandinavia and some were from Poland and Germany. And so they're a little bit different, but they're all basically German culture. And so they call their civilization Bund, which means federation in English, because they're not an empire. The only thing empire-like is the military that connects them all. And serving in the military is an honor, because that's how they pay for having the colonies. They came through, and the Queen Mother now was the queen of the Draconian Empire at the time they were coming out. So they've had that continuity, that the Draco government that they were dealing with has been the same folks all along.
Okay. So, wow, Penny, I'm really gotta open up your quantum aspect to comprehend all this, but thank you for explaining that. We have somebody in the chat that's really wants some clarification. I know you're the type of person that could clarify about Nazis and Dark Fleet. So which actually came first? Did the Nazis travel back in time and found Dark Fleet, or did Dark Fleet already exist back in time from another breakaway civilization out there? What can you tell us about the early history? And and do these Germans consider themselves Nazis? Maybe we'll go with that one too.
Okay, the Germans out there do not consider themselves Nazis. The tradition that they tie into are the Teutonic Knights, which came out of the Crusades. That's the tradition that they mostly connect with. They're not Christian. The upper classes are aggressively atheist. The lower classes practice what we're calling asatru now, which is basically ancestor worship. Because of the time travel aspect, what you're calling Dark Fleet has always been the Germans. It's not somebody else that was already there. It was the Germans went back in time, established their region, established the Bund, and when they finally, in real time, went back, they found themselves.
You mean back in time they forgot where they originated from because it was so long in history? That kind of thing.
Some of those people have no idea that they were ever from Earth. They think they evolved on the planets they're colonized on.
Interesting. Wow.
But they are still human. They have this thing about they don't care what race of human you are, as long as you have Earth genetics.
Okay, so Penny, if this type of technology exists, theoretically any other species out there could have used it and just went ahead and colonized the whole universe before we got a hold of it. So was it like that when they got out there? Like everything was already full, or they had to like terraform worlds and start over?
They had to terraform worlds that were unsuitable. Because that was what was allotted to them by the Draco Empire, who has been out there for billions of years. The Draco Empire is older than Earth is. So they have had this part of space for a long time.
Okay. Oh wow. All right. So I think we covered that pretty good. So how about we go to maybe some of the title of our show is technology. So I thought, was there a particular technology that you wanted to go into first, or you want me to just pick one?
I found some patents that I thought were related. Do I have sharing capabilities here?
So if you press present, there should be a little drop down box that comes up, and then you can just click the layer that you want to show.
Okay, I found patents about Neuralink technology because while I was a pilot navigator, I had a chip behind my left ear that was linked directly into my brain on one end and Wi-Fi connected to the computer on either the plane or craft, whatever it was I was piloting. And it looked exactly like the Neuralink programs that are being developed now. So let me see if I can find that.
All right. And do you think the technology is good, or do you think it's potential to entrain the mind with AI, where AI could take us over?
I think all of these technologies have serious ramifications. None of them should be embraced. I think that all of them need to prove their justification.
Okay. So they probably have like gold fibers in their wires, per se, to match so it doesn't get rejected by the body, I would guess.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so could you use the technology to have like a little window pop open, and you could see little schematics, something like that, where you don't even have to look at a screen?
It would present a screen in front of you, but you were the only one that saw it. This is this is a page that shows all of the various patents assigned to the Neuralink. Dicing and partial dicing, release of lithograph device, the cannula for grasping and setting the lead with a needle, neural signal compression for brain-machine interface, static and dynamic input multiplexing for high-density neural signal recording. That way they're recording what goes back and forth. Optical coherence tomography for robotic brain surgery. That's because they're using a robot to install these. Capacitive, I think that's the right pronunciation, shield for charger artifact reduction for implants. And there's a set of shielded coils for wireless power transmission into a medical implant. So it has its own power source. Automatic craniotomy and bone work via milling, force sensing, and impedance sensing. The biggest problem I see with any of these is that they're permanent. they're absolutely permanent changes. So the reason I don't have them here is because I was put through regen before I was sent back, and they removed all of them. We don't have that technology here. Or if we do, it's so locked up, we'll never have it. So if they do this technology to someone, it's permanent. And they're leaving a hole in your head for bacteria, parasites, pathogens of all sorts to get in. So the end result is that person is going to end up dying from this. I mean, when I was in space, they kept putting me in the regen to repair all those issues. You went through regen at least once a week because of the chemicals they gave you and the stuff that was installed. So, you know, that's my biggest problem with it. In fact, there's, can you see this one?
Okay, go ahead and pull it up.
Okay, I'll have to come back. Present, share screen. This one is talking about the superhumans and the law, genetic warfare. It's talking about what the issues are modifying human beings permanently for military applications. And it's several pages long. It's downloadable on this. I can give you the link for your description. But here are his references. When, see also Bruce Ubben, first look at DARPA funded as exoskeleton for super soldiers, Ready for War in 2005, The Soldier Who Never Sleeps, 10 Extraordinary Pentagon Mind Experiments. And this, you know, these are from 2003, 2014, 2008. This is all technology that's been being used for a while. Meanwhile, we have the Universal Declaration on the Human Genome and Rights that's from 1997 that's saying we don't do this. And that has not changed yet. So this is part of why super soldiers and SSP are very top secret, is because they have violated the Convention on Human Rights. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow. So I went back and I found this old video. It's basically it's like a local news broadcast of how this lady's talking about neurocore, which is, I believe, is what that's part of what Elon Musk was working on. And
yeah, he calls it Neuralink, but yeah, it's all this same technology.
okay, let's see if this is going to work here. Okay, I'm going to pull this up. Give me a moment.
I'm
Okay,
fully
so
patient.
it's loading, but it's muted. So let me go ahead. Okay, so it's 37 minutes. Let me just skip to the part where, okay, here she is. Okay, let's pull this up. And so this was from 2020. And you can imagine content like this usually just gets forgotten. But thankfully, I saved this. So let me pull this on.
I'm glad you saved it.
Okay. Can you hear anything?
No.
Oh, here it goes. I'm turning it up. So they're going to talk about, I think they're raiding this warehouse behind the police, if that's what they really are. Oh, here it goes.
from Europe and hired me to work for a company called Europort. And he is pretty much the ringleader of the whole underground world in digital mind implants. He was staying at this hotel. Well, I've been under surveillance because the FBI is aware of it, everyone's aware of it, CIA, and others. And so they tipped him off. And so they've been over here staying 2 weeks, breaking in my house. They stole my dog, and they were tipped off. They've been on the open Wi-Fi, so it was discovered. So that's probably, I'm not saying that's what it is, but seeing that there's cops 2 miles long, that's probably what it is. They all came back here and they got them. But I don't know if I would say that on air because it's really strange, but that's what's been going on.
Okay, let me pause this.
You know what I mean? So how do you do that? Or word that? I mean, I'm the happiest I've ever been, but it was as a result of that.
Why did they take your dog?
They've been breaking in my house for well, last summer they did it 6 times. I have 6 police reports. They've broken in 4 times in the last week, and then they took my dog 2 days ago.
Were you here when this happened?
No, I just pulled out. Actually, it was like God.
So now gunshots are going off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, guys, because we got lots of good stuff. Okay, don't say anything. Let me fix this audio because I don't want to blow out my speakers. Okay, were you, Penny? Were you able to hear that? I hope you were able.
I was able to hear parts of it.
Okay, so she said something about neurocore.
I'm getting older and I have trouble pulling words out of noise.
Okay, something about neurocore and something about the leader of the underground. So it's my belief that this type of technology already exists in these dumbs, and they're just handing prototypes to Elon Musk. I don't think he's reinventing the wheel. Anyway.
His name for it is too close, and what he has going on is basically an exact duplicate of what was used on me in 1975.
Oh wow!
I mean, it's that old, at least that old, because it was used on me then.
Oh wow! Okay, so I think we've got enough here. Audience members, hopefully you were able to hear that. If not, maybe what I'll do, I'll just post this video on my channel. How about we'll just go ahead and get it up there.
That'll work.
So you can watch it yourself. All right, so let's go to the next topic. What do you say?
Okay.
We have med beds, regen tanks, replicator. What do you want to go?
Replicator, I have things on.
Okay, and I have something I want to show on that too. So go ahead.
This one is a network on chip for neurological data, and it's a patent that this one. For those who want to know about it, there's a patent number, and this is a Google patent search. And the embodiments disclosed herein relate to chips used to receive and process neurological events in brain matter as captured by electrodes. So this is a form of electronic telepathy. And it's done through chips. And here are all of the pictures for it. So
this is synthetic telepathy.
This is a synthetic telepathy that's based on chips implanted in your brain.
What year was this patent? Do you know?
It should say in it somewhere.
Okay, it looks pretty recent, 2019.
Yeah, 2019 to 2020 and 2021.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking some serious stuff, and there are patents that prove it's not something we're making up.
In the breakaway, did the Germans choose to take the Neuralink, or did they just have their they kept their cell phones on them, not become digitized that way? Usually, I think their phones look like a glass pad. It's translucent. You can see through it.
Most of the soldiers had chips of some kind. I don't know what the civilians had, because I was modified with Draco DNA before I was born. I was considered too dangerous to be among the civilians. So I was either kept on the ship or on the base at all times. I didn't get to run around free. So,
Okay.
and I didn't deal well with military discipline. And I would occasionally strike back. And so I was considered volatile and potentially dangerous.
Okay. I believe you.
You've met me real world. You know, I have an occasional attitude that here I just try to keep it to, I give you a dirty look and that's about it. But apparently their actions follow the dirty looks.
Wow. Okay. Here's a question. Actually, I should have asked this earlier about the black goo, because it seems like officers and the Draco are infected, according to Johann Fritz anyway. So what do you think about that? Is it black goo? Is that similar to a Neuralink, and can that entrain you? And yeah,
I had both.
What do you mean?
Okay. I had both. You are not forced to do the black goo. But if you want a certain job, black goo is a requirement for it. Does that make sense? If I had not taken the black goo, I would have been a fighter pilot. But drinking it, I became a navigator, which is a higher level.
Is that a requirement? You have to take the black goo to become
a navigator? Yes.
Okay, so Penny, I was second class navigation asset. Would a second class navigation asset have to take it?
Yes. But it was voluntary. You drank it in an initiation ceremony.
Do you have memories of all that too, Penny?
Yeah, I remember. I did not. Okay. My initial memory was looking into the cauldron and seeing it swirling inside it. And I did not accept for a long time that I drank it. I remembered looking at it, but I couldn't force myself to accept that I drank it. But it's in a fembot-sized AI, and it comes in and it enhances your intellect. It eliminates your emotions, except for anger. You can still get mad. And you don't have all that confusion that emotions give you. You're logical. You think straight. You can see what's in your best interests. Now, is that always a good thing? No, because you have no compassion. You take advantage of others. You don't care if you hurt others. So it's got a really dark side. The reason they did it is because some jobs require more brain power than normal humans have. And it increases your IQ from double to 4 times what it normally is. So you're able to do things. You're able to do anything that an ET would be able to do. And the Germans were being taken advantage of by ETs. They needed people who were as smart as they were, so we would stop being fooled. It was a situation where you had the super smart ETs that were completely taking advantage of much less intelligent humans.
Do you remember any specific examples of that?
Deals for planets. We would be trapped into 99-year contracts where we were basically slave labor for the entire term.
And at first
we didn't have to be.
Wow.
Once we had negotiators that were on black goo, those kinds of deals stopped happening. We got much more fair interactions. We stopped being bullied. We stopped being taken advantage of. We stopped being used. We became partners instead of slaves. And when you're dealing with Draco, that matters. Because if you're a Raka, you get no respect at all.
What does that mean?
Raka is fool or slave or idiot. And that's what they thought, that's what they called us until we started using black goo and became their intellectual equal. And at that point, they suddenly treated us better.
Wow, because I mean the original humanoid was created. I mean, we were a lot taller and a lot smaller, and then we were just us smaller humans were genetically engineered to be a slave race to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of where the war is going on with Inky and Enlil. I can't even figure out which one did what, but whatever. My opinion, none of them are any good. But
I keep telling people don't trust ETs. Consider them to be used car salesmen until you know what they want. Don't even talk to them.
Okay. Well, do you think that can be repaired without having to take an AI, black goo? You think the DNA genome, we could be returned back to our blueprint?
I think normal humans will never be on a par with ETs. And if we want to be out in space on an equal footing, some of us will always have to partake. I do not see this as a good thing. I see this as a necessary evil. And so some of us, I didn't do it to be a superior person. I did it because the ship needed a navigator and the Germans were tired of ETs on the ships.
Oh, so
that was why I was created in the first place, was to replace an ET on a ship.
Because you would have to have the cognitive ability to visualize all the different meteors, and as you're traveling through space.
Yeah, you have to become one with the ship and see everything around it in 36 degrees every direction. You have to know what's out there because a lot of things are not charted. And it's like you become the ship and you're sitting out in space and you see all this stuff and everything that hits the ship feels like it's hitting you.
So do you remember what it was like when you first drank it? Do you have that kind of specific memories?
It was thick, like drinking motor oil.
Is that what it tasted like too?
Yeah, it tasted like motor oil, and it was really thick and black, and the urge is to throw up. Your stomach really doesn't want it. And you have to keep it down. You have to chill out, let it work. And it's considered to be permanent for the rest of that incarnation, but it can be removed through the
regen.
Region. When they put you through the region before they send you home, they remove all evidence that you were ever a part of that. They remove the black goo, they remove all the implants, they remove all of the enhancements, you know, the chips, everything. They remove all of that before they give you back.
Do you think it's possible that, because it seems like I know a couple people, maybe even including myself, that might still have a little bit of an infection, and it's really causing a lot of health issues. Do you think they may do that as a way to traumatize?
I think that there's something about the process of sending us back to when they got us. That's the process that causes us problems, because even the Americans have problems. You know, the people that served with Solar Warden, the people who served with planetary corporations is what Ileana calls them.
The ICC.
Yeah, that is the ICC.
Well, I talked to Ileana about that, and she said the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate is a separate entity than Planetary Corporation, because that even had me confused. So
that confuses me, because she originally said it was the same thing.
Okay.
And
clarify.
I'm not going to argue with her because she served in it, but that was her original statement, was that that was the real name for it, because ICC was made up. So was Darkfleet.
Okay.
And so I don't use those terms if I can help it.
And so, also Nachtwaffen Regier. You want to explain what that one is?
Nachtwaffen is the actual name of the military. Nachtwaffen Regier is a Spanish word tacked onto the end of the German name, and it's a form of insult. It's Planetary Corporation's version of China calling America a paper tiger.
So it's just a different faction that use it. It's the same group, but they just kind of go by a different name to refer to a different subgroup within.
They're not going by that. It's other people are calling them that as an insult.
Okay.
The people who use that never served in it. That's one of the ways that I know if someone was in Nachtwaffen. If they tack Regier on the end of it, they weren't.
Because it's my understanding that's a subdivision that's subservient to the ICC.
No. I'll put it this way. After the Weimar Republic and the bankers printed money as fast as they could, to the point that it took a whole wheelbarrow full to buy a loaf of bread. For the German people, they had widows, orphans, military veterans starving to death because these people were on pensions of equivalent to $600 a month, and suddenly they had to have $6 million to buy a loaf of bread. They were starving to death. They were freezing because they couldn't buy coal.
And meanwhile, Jews were buying up farmland, kicking the Germans off and starving their people.
It wasn't just Jews. It was a specific subgroup known as bankers. Okay? You can't blame the whole race for the actions of a subgroup. So the subgroup was who created this problem. Now, out in where I was, they would say Banker in Weltheim and through their fingers. That was a curse. Bankers. Do you know who Banker in Weltheim is?
No.
Planetary corporations. The military industrial complex.
So the bankers funded that.
The bankers funded that. And no self-respecting German, here or there, will willingly join the bankers.
And that's the JDFC, I think, the Joint Defense Force Command.
They come up with all these different names to confuse who they are. They are the bankers in space.
So Jason Rice, what he said is that the cabal finally got a hold of the German moon base. I think it was 1991 or somewhere around there, 94. And then the cabal set up their structures on other planets off world where they would have, like the top of the pyramid being the banks, and just create a fiat system. So so they're out there spreading this stuff. And
they are also the ones that own the factories that are turning kidnapped people into cyborgs for sale.
Oh yeah. Well, how about we have a discussion about that? Wasn't there a mission that we did together? It was on Mars, and let's see here. I was definitely in a super soldier body, and you look like you were enhanced. You were enhanced too. So that means we were a little bit taller than our normal clone bodies, or at least I know that was for me. But
well, what happened there was 2016. I had a bleed over event where Penny, from Earth, popped into that body. And I saw people on meat hooks ringing the room, blood dripping off them. I saw robot bodies hanging like a factory coming down. And Penny, freaked out. And that activated the self-defense mechanism that I share with my alters, where I send out an EM pulse. And I blew up the power supply for this factory and said remains are still sending up smoke. How many years later? And yeah, it killed all of us, and we had to be regenerated and put in new bodies.
Nice work.
And you chewed out the me out there. And
what, I told you not to do it.
Oh, you chewed me out like you thought that altar had done it. And
so this was after you were regenerated. We had the
after the regeneration, you chewed me out. Now, somewhere along that time frame, after I blew up the factory, I was picked up and the connection was modified, so I can still bleed over, but I cannot affect what the altar is doing. So I still witness a lot of things. And that's where some of my testimony comes from, is witnessing what my altar's doing. But it's I can't stop them anymore.
So humans are being abducted from planet Earth. I guess perhaps they were in train accidents, plane crashes, in certain disasters.
War refugees, earthquake refugees, flood refugees. Okay, there are millions of people throughout the world that are refugees, and they simply just fucking disappear because they are suddenly in factories off world.
So they're being converted into their own into a cyborg, and why are they doing that? Why not just use them as they are?
Because they can sell them to extraterrestrials as slave labor in exchange for advanced technologies. Except they don't even realize that what they're getting are what the ETs consider to be toys, because they're not allowed under galactic law to give a child race anything more than toys.
Interesting.
It has to do with the Prime, which is the Prime directive in Star Trek is actually called the Prime, and it's you don't screw with a protective child race, and
Wow.
we are.
So the Enterprise is real, according to Jimmy Payne. He claims he was on it, and he was dating Spock's sister. And the Vulcans are actually a lot shorter, like 4 foot tall. But they don't have any emotions. And planet Vulcan is actually inside our sun and our solar system, but we can't really see it because I think it's cloaked or maybe
Really,
just outside our dimension. So that's why
I haven't listened to any of his stuff. Sorry, I have been trying to keep. I watch the interviews of the people that I have on my show, and it keeps me calmer. I think that's a good word. It keeps me calmer.
Okay, certainly we could go down so many rabbit holes, but let's move on here. So let's go. So we went over. How about the replicator tech? Because I know we were starting to go to it and we didn't quite get there. So what can you tell us
Replicator
about?
tech. We have some very basic stuff that is just beyond the 3D printer stage. And I'm not sure.
So we're talking about 3D where it just takes the ingredients and mixes it up.
Yeah, you take something that's similar to paint. And I'm not finding that. So
okay. I think well, if you can find it, great. So let me know if you want me to pull something up because I have a drawing here.
If you have a drawing, go
Okay.
for it. I
All
know
right.
that we had replicators that could produce food, water, clothing, and tools on command.
Thank you. John Whitberg's in the audience. Hi, John. And
Hi,
he
John.
says that all the well, according to him anyway, all cyborgs are made by a company called Arasaka Robotics, by the way. Does that ring a bell to you, Penny? That kind of specific detail?
It doesn't ring a specific bell to me, but I know the biggest factory is on Pluto, and the next biggest is on Mercury, and the one I destroyed on Mars was the third.
And it seems like there's all these there's asteroids, small planetary bodies. Yeah, they would have facility all over.
They're all over the place. It's just a matter of those were the biggest ones that I knew about.
Wow. So that's why we need a lot of super soldiers out there to help out. One day we can liberate the universe.
If we can ever get them out of the wars with ETs.
Well, it wasn't in the Bible, it talks about like 1,000 years of peace, and then finally the final battle takes place between good and evil, and eventually we win. But if we lost, then our whole timeline would be deleted. So I think there's still hope. So
I hope there's still hope. Otherwise, it's kind of useless for me to be talking about all this.
So somebody was commenting about Kruger. Do you know about Kruger? Much about Penny?
I know that Kruger enhances their people with equipment, and that by the time Kruger gets done with them, they look like the Borg. Now, is this behind the creation of cyborgs? It's not much of a step from a Borg-looking person to an actual cyborg. So, it would make sense.
Wow, because I have an altar over there, this Agent Sabretooth, and they took out my left eye and put in some kind of implant. It's not just heat-seeking, red-looking, but it's actually interdimensional. And certainly, I don't know if this particular clone would have. They would cut open the skull and put a glass piece on top of your head, so they can come in and out. put implants there. I was in a body like that, and Kruger, at least in some of the missions that I was involved with, they would erase my memories after every mission, and so for me, it's going to be kind of hard to get my memories back because my aspects out there really doesn't even remember. It's pretty messed up if you ask me what they do.
Yeah, it is.
Kruger does not pay us. And according to John Whitberg, he says that Kruger has mansions the size of small towns all throughout the breakaway. And on planet Earth. We're digressing. I have a lot of issues with that because yeah.
I have a lot of issues with this entire thing is kidnapped children that are mind fractured and weaponized and then used as slave labor for the rest of their natural lives. And once they die, they time travel back, they catch your soul in a magnetic bottle, wait long enough that you don't remember who you are anymore, and then they put you in a brand new, fresh clone and start you over. So I have real issues with this.
So you can serve technically not just 120 and back, which Jason Rice calls a career return program, but they could theoretically do that indefinitely, or what is the limit?
Indefinitely. I have 90 alters out right now doing 60 and backs, and they still take me for short missions.
Oh my God.
And I'm 68 years old.
I'm sorry, say that again. How old are you?
I am 68 years old here in this body. And they're still taking me for missions over and over and over, sometimes more than one in a night. It's
no way. It's 68. Yeah. A lot of people are.
Well, I was born in 55, so you do the math. And then you start adding up the different alters that I know are out there. And it's no wonder I'm tired.
I hear you. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to, so we went, oh, you know what, we were going to the replicator tech. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to pull up my image.
You have a picture. I couldn't find the link.
Okay. Let's see here. So, I don't know if, can you read German?
Yeah.
Okay. The top here, Verflungunsenheit.
Verpflegungseinheit. Nahrung, Einheit.
Okay. Waffen, of course, there's the Regier part, but food replicators.
Yeah, so, that's what they look like.
They
are past the 3D printer stage and they're actually forming them out of energy now. There was a stage where that they would 3D print them, and some of those were pretty bad.
They still taste like crap.
They always did taste like crap.
So apparently
because they recycled crap into it. You didn't need to hear that. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, but I guess
there's one of the more crude guys out there that used to scream, "More wasabi."
What does that mean?
Don't you know what wasabi is?
Wasabi?
Wasabi is similar to horseradish, but it's green.
It's very spicy.
Very spicy, covers up every taste you can imagine.
Okay, so apparently there's like different levels, like the enlisted would get like the bad tasting one, officers would get something a little bit better, and then I guess the rich and elite would have their own model, which was pretty darn good, but still they could get fresh food, like fresh steak.
Yeah,
which is I guess they wouldn't serve that on a Nachtwaffen vessel, fresh steak, like.
Well, when I was on Mars, Eris Prima grew cells from pork. These were pig cells that they were growing them as muscle, and it would grow so far, and they would take and shave it off, and they would cook it for us. It was to keep our blood iron higher, and so I'm pretty sure that if they have meat for the ships, for the officers, even, that it's cell cultures, it's not animals.
Okay, that seems more a humane way of taking care of that issue.
Well, it's, you don't have to house and feed them either.
Okay.
You just keep their vitamin and mineral bath right.
All right. Well, let's go through this real quick. So we have an EM, electromagnetic suspension. Here's some of the colors: red, green, on, off, on, os, rot, grün.
On, aus is on, off. Rot, green is red or green.
Okay. Weird, bird beat, betit.
Bird,
Processing.
bearbeitet, gelb. So it's processing it yellow. Bereit, complete, which is ready or complete, and that's green.
Okay, so there's some kind of MIDI synthesizer. I'm not sure what it Moog.
Moog MIDI synthesizer. A Moog is, did you ever hear Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
No, I don't think I have. Tell us what that one is, if you don't mind.
It's a band from the 70s, and they played a Moog synthesizer, and it would imitate sounds. But a Moog MIDI synthesizer is something that can do the
Suspension.
frequency shifts on the energy going into the machine. So you can set it up where it will each food has its own frequency or set of frequencies. So the Moog MIDI synthesizer would set it up to create the frequencies for that particular food.
Do you remember what it sounded like when it was working, Penny?
Pretty much like that.
Okay. All right.
It wasn't fun.
Okay.
I'd hold my hands over my ears.
All right. So typically found in IDARF, NOC, Waffen-Regier, ICC offices, checkpoints, and combat operations, including Rodenkrieg, Mop-Up, and
I can't read that one.
Mop-Up and Ceres Iaptis. It's a series called. Let's see here.
Iaptis is a moon.
What planet? Does anybody remember what planet that one is? Maybe Saturn? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if Iaptis is around Saturn or Jupiter, but it's on one of them.
Can operate on lower electricity amounts, but limited new selection. Rodenkrieg. What is a Rodenkrieg?
Rodenkrieg is Red War.
Red Bar?
Red War.
Okay.
That would be the name of the shuttlecraft.
Okay.
They named the ships really weird crap.
Okay. And we have Kraft Bentatite.
I don't know what bentatite means.
Maybe volts, energy. So power needed. Oh, power.
Kraft means work.
Okay. And then you got some heat inputs. So you could get your tea, Earl Grey, hot.
Yep.
Like in Star Trek. Did it actually taste like Earl Grey tea or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So
it was acceptable, but it didn't taste like tea.
Do you remember the Tang drink that would come out of it? Tang.
I remember a orange looking thing, but I wouldn't call it Tang.
Okay. Because I want to bring this up.
It was more like orange Kool-Aid.
Okay. According, I was hoping John would say this because he has more recall than on this specific thing than anybody I really know. But
John's going to be on my show soon
okay, he's gonna
again.
All right. So Mondelez, there are some corporations here on planet Earth that have food replicators, and I'm guessing maybe they must have the more advanced models because they are replicating food and putting it into the food supply, and I guess making a killing. I guess you could theoretically make a lot of money as long as it tasted real. Maybe like canned food, because canned food is not as good.
The thing that you have to worry about is, what are they making it out of? Does it actually have food benefit, or does it just look and taste right?
Yeah.
Because you can eat imitation food from now till the horses come home, and if it doesn't have food value to it, you're just going to get sick.
Right. What was the best tasting food that came out of the machine, Penny? Maybe a cake, coconut cake.
No.
I see you eating some coconut cake.
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel. So that's like a bread.
Schnitzel. No, oh no, it's a bread pork. It's a bread coated pork product that's fried. It's like chicken fried steak, except it's pork chops.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, you're gonna make us hungry. You're not had dinner yet.
It's the only thing that came out that was good.
Okay.
They did have prepackaged stuff that you could heat in the microwave, add water. And if you did it exactly right, the macaroni and cheese was actually excellent.
Good. Because they would also supplement you with some real food from the hydroponics bay too. I remember us discussing that in the past. But,
yeah, when I was on Mars, we would get shipments in from other planets, and there was a fruit that they would bring in. It looked like a banana, but it would taste like strawberries. That was really good.
Wow. And Alex Collier mentioned that there's a fruit that the Andromedans have on their ships that has a high protein content that's like a full profile. So if these ET could share some of their plants with us, we could theoretically get off of animal products altogether. But first things first, let's
well,
say
there are some of us who will never be able to get off of animal products because of our personal genetics.
You mean because of the Draco DNA they put in some of the officers?
My family has pernicious anemia, and if you ever go vegan, you will end up with the illness instead of just the tendency. And I've had 10 NDEs, and 5 of them were from pernicious anemia. You just slowly wind down until you have no energy, and you just go to sleep.
Well, Penny, I'm sorry to hear that. I do remember this has come up in the show before that one of the last inventions that Nikola Tesla was working on, the New Yorker hotel in the basement, was it looks like a bell, but it would spray you with this water, and it would take away all your hunger, and reverse your age. So
wow,
the Germans were trying to get their hand. Well, I guess they did get their hands on it. But do you remember any technology like that in the breakaway where they could just take your hunger away with technology?
They didn't want us to not eat unless we were in a smart suit. If you were in a smart suit, you weren't supposed to eat.
You need about 100 calories a day in a smart suit.
That was all they would let you have if you were in a smart suit. But the rest of the time, if you didn't eat, they sent you to the doctor.
Because I would sometimes sneak. They would give you like a little salad or something, or fruit, and I would skip some things, and because I was on hunger break to try to get more of my memories back. And there's a whole story. I don't want to go into it all, but they caught me, and they actually they gave me the hammer treatment, and then they raised my food rations, and that's probably we'll go ahead to the next one here. The hammer, Unschick Bahnstraßen, fancy train tracks is potential. Let's see here. Transmit. Okay, so this is the recall hammer. The hammer Enrin. Okay. So do you recall this particular technology, Penny?
I remember using it on people.
Okay. And I actually, Oksana's in the house here. So we did a session on this together to remote view it. And we were picking up that it's called the shock hammer is another term. So the room actually, it would have a like some kind of carpet that would shock you while you're sitting down. And of course, there's like a crystal inside the top of the hammer there that they would touch your third eye area while you're being shocked. And the administrators would have rubber boots to protect themselves. Does any of that ring a bell to you, Penny? The shock treatments?
I don't remember having that. I do remember doing that to someone who was injured and had lost their memory.
Okay, so this was, lost their memory, so it can get your memories back. It can reverse it.
Yeah, it can reverse it.
Oh, wow. Too bad we couldn't like smuggle one of these things out, bring it to planet Earth.
Well, there are probably some on Earth. They're just not where we can get them.
Okay, interesting. All right. So at the end of a 20-year service, okay, for you, 60 years, they would pull you aside and the doctor there would tell you that, oh, you actually have a life on planet Earth. It hasn't been destroyed in the cobalt bomb. And we have to re-age you and send you back. So do you remember anything like that, Penny? That talk?
I remember that talk in 2014.
Okay. And
I haven't gotten to that stage in some of the other lives yet.
Okay. All right. And what do you remember if you had that recall? Can you tell us more specifics? Like, what did they tell you?
They tell you that they can only keep you so long, that you're not allowed to stay with them, that your time there is done. They thank you for your service. They promise that you'll get paid, which you don't. And they put you into, it depends on what kind of body you're in. If you're in your natural body, they put you into this thing that looks like, it looks almost exactly like an MRI machine. And they'll put you in that and you don't come out. It's you time travel through it. And when you get back to the time they took you, they reduce your age and size to whatever you were when they got you, and they still have your clothes that they took you out of. In my case, they put them back on me inside out. And the shock to the system is really tremendous, because they do try to erase your memory. They don't want you to remember any of this. And when I was left on the doorstep, my parents lived in a trailer house. It was one of those silver things. Looked like a travel trailer, but it was a 2-bedroom house. And they left me on the front step with my pajamas inside out. And I couldn't speak English. I didn't know my parents. And my parents were uneducated Okie types. And their solution was to beat me senseless. And then I started kindergarten a couple of months later, and I told the teacher that Martians had left me on the doorstep. She called my mother. When I got home from school, I got my ass beat. And I can remember to this day what she says: I gave birth to you. You're my child. You were not a foundling. No one left you on the doorstep. With a swat at every word. So, yeah. I pretty quickly learned not to say anything to them.
Oh wow. Sorry, Penny. Parents. Was it the father figure in your life also kind of aloof like that too?
The father figure in my life was a preacher for the Church of Christ. Andy.
Oh no. That must
So, I had a difficult upbringing because I was a science geek from the very get-go. And I had a full scholarship to Cornell University when I was 17. And my father ripped it apart in front of me, told me that girls need husbands, they don't need degrees.
wow.
And then they found me a preacher from the Church of Christ to marry. And I bet it took them quite a hunt to find someone willing to marry a girl geek.
So weren't you like speaking German when they sent you back? Like you couldn't speak English at all?
I couldn't speak English at all. Took me a while to figure out how to speak English. But my parents didn't believe in amnesia.
There's a actual medical condition where you suddenly start speaking in another accent, or it could be like a foreign language. Does anybody in the chat remember the name of that condition? Because I'm wondering maybe all these people might have been SSP vets. They were returned back.
Well, it would make sense if they were, because almost every country has a presence out there.
Oh wow! So when they re-aged you, did you have to go into like a med bed? I'm sorry, a regen tank for like 7 days, something like that, 2 weeks?
I was in a regen tank long enough for them to shrink me from an adult back to a 4-year-old, and I was a small 4-year-old.
So I think it's 7 days for every 10 years of age.
I have no idea how long I was in there. Now, from the time they took me to the time they put me back was only like 15, 20 minutes. So my parents never realized I was gone. They thought I was sleepwalking and ended up on the front porch.
Okay. Penny.
They never did figure out why my pajamas were inside out.
So, Penny, to erase your memories, was that through the regen tank, or did they also have another technology that they was it the shock hammer?
It was probably the shock hammer, but I don't remember it.
Okay. Let me do this. Let's see here. I wanted to share this drawing, and so that the other two drawings were done by Ashton. So thank you, Ashton, if you're out there. So this one was from another guy that a name we don't really mention here in our community, but so you can see a little crystal on the top of the device, looks like amethyst crystal. So does that look a little bit more familiar?
That looks familiar, but I still don't remember it from then. There was such a shock going from German adult to back in America and a child that a lot of things just don't make sense.
Okay. All right. So I think we've covered memory erasure. Certainly, I think we could go down more roads on that, like how to get recovery and all that. But I think we could go maybe to the next topic, which is looks like it's the last one on this list here. Unless audience members, if you have a technology of the SSP you want us to cover, we can go into that. But let's just go into something called the med bed.
I don't remember dealing with med beds.
Okay.
I remember regen tanks.
So the regen tank is more advanced than the med bed.
It's what the Germans use. I don't have a lot of memories from the other factions. I remember what was used in the Germans.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we can maybe skip this topic, or let's see here. Maybe
I know that the long-term storage, they put you in a yellow gel, and for healings, it's either green or blue, and I don't know what the different colors mean. But I do know that the regen tanks do not heal mental problems. They don't heal mind fractures. So if you go in with alters, you'll come out with alters. And if you have catatonia because you can't deal with it anymore, they can't fix that.
But I mean, they can erase your memory of it, so then you wouldn't really have it, right?
It doesn't work that way. The mind has like a response. Once you go into catatonia, you're lost. That's what most of the assets were ultimately killed for, was they went into catatonia and couldn't be brought back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they didn't send them home to their parents that way. They just killed them.
Okay. Wow. So I wanted to share something here. Oh my gosh, let me pull this up again. I was actually hoping to share my screen, but it's a Word document. I can't figure out how to make it one page. Oh my gosh. And I just had it here. It's from my book. Oh my God. Let me get just keep talking. I'll try to say something else while I try to sort this out.
I do know that whenever you went into the regen tanks, there was a computer on the side of the tank, and a experienced tech could use it to fix genetic issues. They could fix just about anything if they knew what they were doing. And most of the time, those techs would be the mantids, because the regen tanks were their technology. And we talked about that I have bleed over. So sometimes I've had bleed over of an altar of mine that assembles the regen tanks in a base under Hawaii. So we do have that technology here on Earth. It's just getting it to the population is impossible at the current time.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm going to try this. We're going to see how it goes here. So these are the different types of goos. Hold on, folks. We're going to get this pulled up.
The gel in the regen tanks is made from black goo that's had the sentience removed.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. So I was hoping to make the text bigger. I had a brain fart. I can't figure out how to do this. Maybe. Oh, wait, maybe click this. Zoom. Oh, here it is. Zoom. That's it. We don't want whole page. We want 200%. Oh, wow. Look how big that is. Okay, types of goo.
Readable. Yay.
Okay, so blue goo is used for healing. Yellow goo is for stasis. And then there's also a green goo, which I guess, so yellow and blue make green.
I usually had green.
Okay, so that'll be a mixture of healing, augmentation, and stasis too. Pink goo is prolonged stasis. Fluorescent yellow is green goo, is a combination for healing stasis. I just said that. Black goo is a terraforming goo. So typically they would use it for recreating planets, to recreate planets so that were contaminated, but puts you in a hive mind consciousness. I guess we've already kind of explained a little bit.
I was never in a hive mind when I had it.
Your black goo wasn't communicating with other people that had black goo in it.
No.
Okay, is that like what something they would design, or was it the natural default state of the black goo?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I just drank it and lived with it. I didn't process it.
All right, thank you. And then we have the last one here is the red goo. Oh, actually, the last two. Sorry, red goo is would convert a biological organism into a cyborg. So you have to get the dose right, or it could kill you. Did you ever witness the red goo, Penny?
No.
Okay. All right, and then there's the
trend. I worked in navigation. I didn't work in cyborg creation.
Okay. And there's an opal, translucent opal, so that's for memory wipes. So I had a this is what the clones look like. I don't know. Does that bring any memories back, Penny?
It didn't work with a lot of clones.
Okay.
I do have, let me pull it up.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have artwork of when they transfer you from your natural body into a clone body. It's not a photograph for people who are interested in that.
Like a drawing?
Yeah, it's somebody drew it from memory.
Okay.
So let me.
So they take your physical vessel and you're put onto a steel table and you're unconscious. Nope.
No, not in my case.
Okay. But the original vessel, your original body is kept in stasis while you serve in a clone body off-world. Typically, right? Is how that works.
It works that way with the Americans. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that. You're in your natural body on one side and you have the clone on the other side. I have been awake during this process and you get disoriented, dizzy. You feel a bzzz on both ends, and it's really disturbing to be awake for it. But once they pull you out of the tank in the clone, they switch you to the altar they want. They use code words to do that. So you're not fully aware of it all the time. They don't take just the altar, they take your whole consciousness and then activate the altar they want. So your body is sitting there in stasis the whole duration. And once they kill the clone, you're back in your body, and then they clean you up and put you back.
And the clone has to have some of your own DNA in order for you.
Yeah, it has to be your clone. It has to be you. The most they can screw around with it is make it male or female.
Oh gosh, that's got to really mess up your head.
We've got a lot of people in the community that are really messed up because they have served multiple lifetimes as the opposite gender.
So Penny, I have a memory where I hear somebody tell me turn around, and then I feel like I'm being electrocuted, and then I wake up and I'm in my bed. So do you think that might be the soul transference chamber?
Yeah, that could be.
Because there was one time I woke up and all my clothes was like inside out, even like my I think like these.
I don't know why they do that, but yeah, that's one of the ways they tell us that we were taken, is our clothes are inside out.
I'm figuring maybe like there might be a gray there, and they dress you up, and they don't really know which is the right way. I'm guessing maybe, but do you think they'd be smarter than that?
I think it's a sense of humor.
Okay. Well, I'm
one last time to fuck you over.
So I get like
I'm sorry, but that's how it feels.
Okay. I think set up. Okay. Trip chairs, do you want to go into that? Do you have any information on trip chair? Or trip seat?
I used the trip seat at Montauk in 1961-62. I was strapped in. I would run away and take the chair with me, and they would send a Draco warrior, one of the turtle people, to come catch me. And I was hiding in an interdimensional zone. That was when they figured out I could travel interdimensionally and take objects with me, which is the job of a navigator. And so when I got back from Montauk, they trained me in that. Now, I will say, I do not have personal memories of being part of Project Phoenix. But when I was setting up the two Montauk roundtables, everybody that I picked was real. They had all been there, and they were verified by Doris Neely, the CIA archivist. How did I know who was real if I wasn't there? Now, several of them have told me they remember me. Some of them have even given me the name of my altar that was there. I don't remember it. But how did I know who was real? So that's one of the things that sits in the back of my head bugging me. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, whatever happened to the people that woke you up, the NSA agents? Maybe that would they be willing to come on a show and do an interview?
You remember when we did that first roundtable, you and me and Ileana and Lindsay? The day you uploaded it, they killed the agent that activated me.
Wow, that must have been like 2014 or something.
2016. And after my first interview with you, they shot his boss with one of those ice things and gave him a stroke. And it took him from October to April to die. And he left a young widow and a 5-year-old son.
Oh, wow.
These were decorated NSA agents, heroes of the Cold War. And they were killed because I was talking.
And why did they activate you to begin with? What were they looking
I
for?
was never told.
What do you think it might be?
Something to do with my interactions with extraterrestrials, that it was time that I had to be awake. But I'll never be sure because they're both dead.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry to hear that. So let's just do this and maybe we can wrap it up. What do you think?
okay,
Just
that's fine.
this last picture here. Drawing. It's actually in color, but anyway. So the trip seat. So there's computers or screen layouts that kind of pop up, holographic. There is wires and cables that come outside the back of the chair and it goes into the computer. And so you can just
there were electrodes in the back, on the back of the seat, where they were supposed to touch your shoulder blades. And I was too short, so they put me on a peach box so that I would fit it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So let's see here. So this would be a more advanced one. I'm thinking maybe the one from that Montauk. So that was actually a consciousness chair that they retrofitted from a crashed spacecraft.
Yeah, it was supposedly from Roswell.
Okay, but I don't think at that time they probably had the CRT television tubes, the displays back in Montauk, or at least probably from your era.
From my era, everything was a hodgepodge between what was available on Earth and what was available in space. And so some things were one and some were the other. And it was just this, it looked like it was cobbled together. It didn't look professional.
Okay, and it was probably really dirty too.
I remember the chair being a turquoise blue. I've seen pictures and I know it was almond. Arkeem Ra came up with the explanation for that. He said that they shot a blue light on it when it was in use. So that would be why I remember it being blue.
Okay, I remember a green light, some kind of laser light.
Yeah.
The helmet would come down over your head, and there'll be some kind of maybe a VR component. I'm not really sure. It's almost like it's not like something that you need to see because when they turn the device on, you would have to exit the room, and like these orbs start to appear, and then your consciousness goes away, and something new comes back. Do you remember something like that? Orbs appearing, you can't be around the
No.
kid.
What I remember is being in the chair, and when they would turn it on, there would be this thing. It was like a tunnel with stripes, and the stripes would move. And if you weren't careful, they would grab you and pull you out into another time. And every so often, there would be a hole, either in the floor or the sides or the ceiling, that would take you somewhere else. And I kept going through a hole in the ceiling to go somewhere else because I was tired of being abused.
And those were the mirrors at Montauk. You would look into a mirror.
Not that I don't know. It might have been mirrors. But I could see it looked like manholes, and I would go because I did not want to go to that place at the end and do what they said and come back. It wasn't until they chipped me and I knew I couldn't get away that I cooperated. I had already been to Langley and been mind fractured, and then came to Montauk and was continued to be abused. And I was hunted down by this Draco that was a giant turtle, a giant brown turtle. And so, when I ran away, I would end up with orcs, brown orcs, wearing Victorian style clothing. I mean, it was trippy, but it was interdimensional. And I would take the chair with me. And I really thought all they cared about was the chair, but they'd make sure they dragged my ass back too. And I was 6 at the time. And I was really tired of this. And they ended up killing everybody but me at Montauk because they didn't perform to standards. And they would just pop them into the incinerator. And the guy running it wanted to do the same to me, and the Draco turtle stopped him. And I got sent back to Langley.
Were there some Dracos down there where they would feed the children too? Do you remember anything like that?
I don't remember any of that.
Okay, it's just as well.
I was actually shocked when Joe told me about that.
Oh wow.
I had no idea that had gone on.
Okay.
No memory of that whatsoever.
So Penny, I had this I got this. Oh, sorry, this way. I got this from you a while back.
I put together the scripts from my shows that were on Fringe TV. It was on Roku, and Richard and Linda Smith were the ones producing that. And I had to use a script because they said no cussing. And so I thought, well, everybody kept telling me I needed to put together something to sell at these conferences. So I just plopped them together as a booklet, printed them out. It was like $70 for 100 of them, which I thought that was a lot of money. And that's why I haven't printed anymore, is because it was so much money. But I basically left them out on a table and said $8 a piece or donation. And I was shocked that people left me as much money as they did for them.
Well, Penny, a lot of people love you. I know in the SSP, they may not have showed their humanity to you, but there are a lot of people that still have humanity and care. And I care about you. So I'm gonna read from this. So just sit back and relax, and I'll take. So this is on page 17. So their goal was a specific number of altars, and they were both methodical and determined to get there, or I would die from them trying. I knew that they were forming a 13 by 13 by 13 hierarchical cubic array of altars, exactly if in my mind were a computer to be accessed. If you do the math, it is 2,197 altars. That is what they created in me by the end of 1960. After they had required the number of altars, I was sent to a Montauk Camp Hero base to deal with the chair. That isn't about the altars, it's about psi abilities. The more of us were incinerated there, but we were incinerated there. It was on my way back from Montauk that I heard the men escorting me back say that they were taking me to Langley Air Force Base. When I got back, I was still not quite 7 years old. I was returned to my cubby, my head shaved again. They had not shaved it at Montauk. This is when the training of my altars began. Montauk had uncovered psi abilities that the folks in lab coats had not expected, so I had to be trained to use them. Psi abilities work best when your adrenaline levels are the highest, so they devise ways to terrorize you into using them. All the people who survived mind fracture at Langley have a monarch sex altar, slave altar, at least one. All of us. I have reasons to believe that I have at least 13 of them. All the people who survived mind fracture at Langley have been trained to kill, even their loved ones, under orders. We have been conditioned to believe that we would be forced to do it, even if we kill ourselves instead. The death is not an option to reject orders, because they can regenerate you. You can't just kill yourself.
Nope.
Um,
I've been dead 10 times as Penny, and I'm still here.
the
That
mantis helped you out?
That a couple of times it was Anunnaki.
Okay.
A couple of times were Draco. And then there were some interdimensional beings that just basically screamed at me, "Your job isn't done yet."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing great work here, awakening humanity, even though it seems like they're not really listening or ready to hear it. But all we can do is try. So, do you want me to continue on here? I mean, I'm on page 18 now. I don't. This is almost too good to stop, but I can just let time kind of dictate that. So all of the people who survived mind fracture at Langley have been trained to use all of their psi abilities in different combinations and different altars. So not every altar will have the same skill set. Altars are brought forward by a set of commands generally called triggers. These triggers can be a song, a set of words, or may not make any sense, artwork or noises that can be played over the phone call, or for me, ultrasonic frequency, probably through a satellite. Every altar has a set of commands, the trigger to bring it forward and to activate it. And the commands, number 2, is to perform the actions it is trained for. Number 3, the remember code that allows the agency to debrief the altar. And number 4, the forget code that hides the memory of the action, and it's good enough to fool a polygraph. And number 5, the Omega programming, the self-destruct code in case security is compromised. So we were working on Omega years ago with you, Penny, because I believe that I have some training to deal with it, but it can be a problematic, and some people in our community don't want to get their memories back because of Omega. So
Omega is really nasty, and the super soldier community had a really hard time with it from about 2010 to 2016, about then, where that you would get somebody to the point that they were really remembering what they did and how they were used, and all of a sudden they'd go crazy and kill themselves and their family and their kids, sometimes their parents. And nobody could figure out what was going on until we finally realized that it was a self-destruct programming to protect the agencies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was one of the things when I came into this community. I came from a background of doing counseling. And my generation dealt with the Vietnam War vets. And a lot of them, it wasn't Omega programming, but they went pretty bad. And so we had some techniques that actually worked. And so me, Ileana, Morgan Starr, and a couple of other women, I can't think of their names right now. We were all in a Facebook group together. And we basically said, okay, we have PTSD, we have Omega programming, we have some real serious issues here, and nobody wants to help us because they just want to write us off as crazy and fill us full of drugs, which won't help anything. So we're going to treat this as a group therapy, where you can talk about what happened to you, even if it was something that was nasty, even if it was something you know was illegal, something that you really don't want other people to know about. And there's a Buddhist monk. I'm probably going to butcher his name, Thich Nhat something. He died a couple of years ago. But he talked about something he called compassionate listening. And it's the exact opposite of what the psychology community is wanting to do with us. So when I was doing counseling, I simply listened to people talk. The only time I really gave input was if they were going to go off the deep end and hurt somebody. And then I'd pull them back to the center. I'd give them advice on meditation and calming, but I just let them talk. And that's really healing for all of us because nobody listens to us. I mean, the first time that someone actually listened to what I had to say, it was like the dam broke loose. And it was incredibly healing. And I found that same response with most of the people that I worked with. I had to stop because I was getting all these people that they watched my videos and Tony's videos and your videos. And then they would come to me and they'd had dreams based on watching the videos. And because they had watched the videos and had dreams, they thought they were SSP also. And they weren't. They were just dealing with the dreams from watching the videos. Do you know how you tell the difference? You watch these people's shows. And if the person cannot say anything beyond what's in the videos, then they didn't really experience it. There's a lot I leave out. I just sort of brush over whole parts of it because I don't want people to have dreams about that crap. It's not fun out there. That's one of the ways I know who's real and who isn't. If they're describing it as fun to be out there killing intelligent beings, if they think it's fun to be slave labor for a platform or program, and you have no say in your life, and they can do whatever they want to you, including mess with your DNA, how is that fun? How is that glory? I mean, a slave is still a slave, even if they're called captain.
And the so-called positive groups like Solar Warden, the American side, they do the same thing. They're using slavery.
They're all kidnapping children. They're putting them through mind fracture. They're weaponizing whatever abilities they have, and then they're splitting them up among the different programs. And some of us are used in more than one program.
Well, Penny, what about different alternate realities when we can look at the multiverse? Is it possible there might be a positive SSP group out there, and some people might be have memories from this? Oh gosh, I can't think about all that right now. Just wrap your mind around all that. Can be quite complex.
I don't even want to go there because I know in this reality, we're all kidnapped children in these programs. There are now starting to be a few people who talk about that they were in the military and asked if they wanted to do this. They were at least consenting adults. Okay.
Somebody commented the Buddhist priest.
Yes. Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen master. He was an incredible person. If you can get a hold of his work about compassionate listening, it's worth every minute you spend on it.
Okay. So Penny, let me share this. So years ago, when I first started getting my recalls, I got this situation where I had this paralysis because my alters were starting to bleed through. So I went to the hospital because I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. And I told them I might be a victim of MK Ultra. So they put me into the psych ward for 3 weeks, and they ran my bill up $1,000 a day. So yeah, I was 25 back then, but yeah, so I ended up just filing bankruptcy. I didn't pay any of this, paid some of it, but they didn't. So
I told my doctor, the one I have now, that I was MK Ultra and that I was Houston Black Ops. And she says, okay. And I said, I know you know about those because you did your medical work in San Francisco, and that's where a lot of people like me were dropped off. And she goes, yeah. So I told her that I would not do drugs for it because I did SSRIs for 20 years, and all they did was make me numb and unable to process it. She says, so what are you doing? And I said, my partner Lou is an Iroquois shaman, and we have been using shamanic soul retrieval techniques. And once I pull up the altar and reintegrate with it, then I have to deal with what this part of me has done. Because they didn't have my ethical compass. They didn't have the religious training that I've had. And they did a lot of things that I, Penny, have trouble dealing with. And so I've had to really spend a lot of time. I think it's called shadow work.
okay.
I've had a lot of work going into taking out what they call the golden shadow, and then just forgiving myself for what my alters have done. Because first off, they didn't know any better, and secondly, they didn't have they didn't have the option of saying no.
Okay.
And that's something that people need to understand about us is our alters did not have the option to say no. And they didn't have the ethical instruction to know it was wrong.
So Penny, you wrote here, let's try to get through this real quick here. So the kavad is that you have to, for shamanic soul fragment retrieval, the kavad is you have to reintegrate them in the order that they were created, or it leaves gaps in the structure of the mind. It also takes time to cement back together. In the meantime, it is rather fragile and unstable. During that time is when I do Jungian
Jungian.
shadow work to deal with the ethical issues of what this altar has been required to do on missions.
Yeah.
This is
I have altars that have killed people. They are sent out as assassins.
I have ones too, Penny. It is what it is, but I don't really think it's not really us. I mean, we're not really doing this.
When you reintegrate that person, it becomes you.
Okay. So this is not easy. This is not pleasant. It has filled many hours of my time since my memories were activated in 2013. I often wonder if I would have wanted to have them activated if I had been asked. I wasn't asked about the initial mind fracture. I wasn't asked about the years of being used in Black Ops missions. I wasn't asked about the remembering. I also wasn't asked about my exorcisms nor the excommunications over my life. If someone in your life is struggling with altars, kindness and understanding goes a long way, along with knowing that they can't control it. Adding more abuse to what they have survived is just cruel. Some are able to be helped with regression hypnosis, but Native American shamanic soul fragment retrieval has been the best that I have found.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You have to find a real shaman too, not somebody that took a class over a weekend.
So where can people get a copy of this?
All of them I had printed, sold. I can send you the PDF version. So you need to contact me for that.
Do you want me to just give it out for free? Like put a link and so people can read it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Awesome. And you can get a copy of my book, Lone Wolf at Neological Tech. This thing is like 400 pages now. So I'm going to have to probably do volume 2. I just not even adding anything else to that, but there's so much more to learn. And this whole SSP thing is just quite fascinating. And
well, I have found, especially the last couple of years, that everything I have ever studied my entire life has been involved with this.
Okay. And thank you for that, Penny. Lastly, so to get a copy of my book, go on neologicaltech.com. You can also make a donation to my 501c3 nonprofit, Healing Soul Survivors. Our mission statement is to help people with PTSD. I wasn't really allowed to put in secret space program into my mission statement because I was hoping we could get grants from the military, but I found out they weren't really supportive of this kind of research. So I never was able to even get a grant, but there are some people that donate. And I do appreciate you for that. So that money is used to help me when I travel, because that's when I got to meet you, Penny. Because we don't get paid for the work that we do.
No, we don't get paid. I do have enough contributors on my Patreon to pay for my Rumble, and I am really, really grateful for that.
Great.
I'm on Social Security and paying for everything out of pocket unless someone donates. So
what is your Patreon in the description? People can
go. It's in what I gave you.
Okay, so, great.
All right. I'm not asking anybody to give a lot of money, but a lot of people at $5 a piece, it adds up, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you, audience members. Oh, wait, here's 2 comments. From New England Dirt Roadie. How did Penny get your memories? Oh, you already said that. The NSA agent triggered you, right? Is that?
Yeah, the NSA agent triggered me. He used my remember code on my first altar.
Okay. Could you all, Penny, why she speculates that those NSA agents woke her up with her memory codes? So you don't know that. What were they thinking?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea what they were thinking.
All right. Thank you. Do you have a PayPal link, Penny? Does people donate money?
Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Okay. All right. Maybe just put it in the comment section and I'll pin it. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. And we'll see you all later. I'll be back in maybe 2 weeks. And yeah, that's it for now. Oh, wait, Penny, are you coming to the event in Los Angeles? Are you
No.
coming to David's event? Okay. Well, I'll be there.
He fired me. He
Oh.
told me that Corey Good was a liar, so I was a liar. And now he's telling people that I retired.
Well, I'll talk to David for you.
It's okay. The last show I went to, I ended up falling and getting a concussion.
Yeah, wow.
So
because your health is getting worse.
I will be at the event in Tampa Bay in July, and I understand you're one of the people producing that.
Oh yeah, so I haven't really done an official announcement yet, but once we all get the details, you'll all find out, and I hope you all come. So it's actually .com, Pennyweekle 2004 yahoo.com. So
yeah.
All right, let's call it. Bye, everybody. Thank you all. We'll see you next show. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.